Good evening or good afternoon, Lake Erie Council. My name is Jarrod Blundy. I'm your Fire Islands Camp Director, and I am very excited to be here with our special guest, Grace, today. How you doing, Grace?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I am great. I'm looking forward to our Denny meeting today because it's about a topic that I think is pretty fun, and it's something that I enjoy doing myself. What are we talking about today?
Well, today we're going to talk about one of my favorite things, which is movie making.
Movie making. Are you a movie maker?
Yeah, I am. You could say that. I've
That's
been
cool.
studying movie making at school for a lot of years now, and so I'm really excited to, talk to you more about it and teach all of our scouts at home all about movie making.
Well, very cool. All of those scouts that are joining us, this is our Webelos and Arrow of Light Den meeting. So if you are joining with us live, welcome, 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 and encourage you to ask any questions and answer the questions that we ask of you through the Facebook comments. And there'll be some at-home work for today. Won't be able to do everything here live with you, but we'll give you lots of tips and some links and things to get you started. And then you'll be able to showcase your work with us a little bit later, hopefully at the camp crawl this weekend, which we will talk about a little bit. But we have a little bit of a gathering activity for us to do while we're waiting for all of our friends to join us. So we would love to hear from all of you on what your favorite movies are and why. So put those into the Facebook comments and we'll share them with our group here. Yeah, Grace?
What's your favorite movie?
But my favorite movie, I have a lot of them, and they're from a lot of different genres or different styles. But one that I could watch almost any day of the week and that I think tells an awesome story is called Castaway with Tom Hanks. Have you seen that movie?
I have not. I've not seen that movie.
Oh, it's very scouty in that there's a guy that's kind of left on an island all by himself, and he has to survive for a couple of years. So he uses all the skills that he's learned throughout his life to keep himself alive. And I just think it's an awesome story of persevering through a lot of hardship.
It sounds like he used a lot of the types of things that we learn in scouting to be able to do that.
It's true, and he was also a master at social distancing, so he'd be great in our current situation. What's your favorite movie, Grace?
One of my favorite movies has got to be Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Oh, what do you like about that one?
I love a funny movie, and so this is a very funny movie. It's all about a pretty clever high school senior who just wants to take a little bit of a break from everything before he graduates. Not so different from, the social distancing right now. We're taking a little bit of a break from everything. But he winds up going into the city of Chicago and having, a great day with his best friends, running around with, a nice car and being in a parade and all these things that are just, really fun. And he has a really funny time while doing it.
That is an action-packed filled day.
It really is, sort of the ultimate day off.
Sounds like fun. Looks like we do have a few folks joining with us, and the Stoops family says Adventures Endgame was one of their favorite movies. That is a good one. Nick Nick is joining us, and his favorite movie is Trolls World Tour, which I have not seen yet, but I've heard is very good. We've got Night of the Museum. The Pettit family says they don't have a favorite movie. And looks like Wyatt from Pack 3391 is joining with us. Cooper is here. So welcome everybody who's joining along live, and excited for you to be here for our movie making den badge. All right, well, looks like it's about time for us to start our den meeting here, and we're going to do it the way we always start our den meetings, with the Pledge of Allegiance, the Scout Oath, and the Scout Law. So I've got my American flag here behind me, so if you wouldn't mind joining me in the Pledge of Allegiance. And if you're in uniform there at home, you can show the Scout sign or Scout salute. If you're not in uniform, you can put your hand over your heart, and we'll say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Two. And Grace, I know you are the program director out at Beaumont, so this might be a little different for you, but do you remember what the Cub Scout sign is?
Isn't it the wolf ears?
Yeah, the ears of Akela, and you put them way up here, as far as you can go.
Oh.
Can you lead us in the Scout Oath?
Of course. On my honor, I will do my best
To
to do my duty
to
to
guide
guide infantry,
and
to obey the Scout law, to help other people,
all times,
to keep myself physically strong, mentally awake, and morally straight.
And will do the Scout law. A Scout is trustworthy,
Worthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent.
2. Awesome. Thanks for joining me in that. And our folks at home, if you could put in the comments, the first person to tell us what the Cub Scout motto is. And then also, since you guys are really close to joining into Scouts BSA, what the Scouts BSA motto is too. We'd like to hear both of those things in the Facebook comments. Oh, we're saying, we're getting a hello from Pack 3303, and there's another vote for Trolls World Tour and Detective Pikachu, which I did see that one. That was a great movie.
I haven't seen that one, but that one sounds like a good one.
For sure.
So today we're going to talk all about how to make a movie, which is very, very exciting.
For sure.
So before we pull out our cameras and we say lights, camera, action, and begin shooting, the next Trolls World Tour or any other exciting movie, we have to do a little bit of planning before we get started. So Jarrod, has anybody answered what the Scouts BSA motto is in the comments yet?
Yeah, we have lots of answers actually. It looks like the first one was from the Jenkins family, who got both of them. Do your best and be prepared. And looks like lots of them are also putting in those same comments. So great job, everybody. We're going to do our best here today too. It might be a little bit challenging to show exactly what we're talking about, but we'll do our Cub Scout best to get everything across to you and give you the resources you need to be successful at home.
So making a movie is just a lot like scouting because we want to do our best. But before we start making our movie, it's really important that we be prepared, just like we do in scouting.
Absolutely.
And in order to be prepared, before we go out and we shoot our movie, we actually have to plan our movie out.
Well, you can't just go onto the set and start shooting?
No, that's not how you get a good movie.
Oh,
all of those movies that we've seen, all of our favorite movies, they require a lot of planning before anybody ever goes out and shoots them.
I suppose that's true, because if you just showed up and started shooting, there might not even be any actors there. They have to know when to show up and what to wear, right?
Exactly. You might be trying to, shoot night at the museum, but you don't show up at a museum. You might show up, somewhere else like a school or a park. And then we would have night at the park, not night at the museum. So you have to plan everything out before you get there, so that way everybody is able to do their best and have fun when they're shooting a movie.
Okay. Well, I know that there's probably some folks that have made some movies at home that are there with us, so I'd love to hear from them about what they think needs to be planned ahead of time, and we'll give what we think as well, okay?
Awesome.
So what are the types of things that you as a movie maker need to think about before you start shooting?
So the most important thing you have to think about in a movie before you start shooting it is your story.
Okay.
We've all read stories at school, and we all have a favorite book, just like we have a favorite movie. And we might not think about it, but when we think about movies, we're just thinking about stories that we can see. So the same parts
like a book that you read, but you get to see the pictures in the way that the director intended you to do it.
Exactly. When an author writes a book, you have to use your head to think about what you want it to look like. But when you're making a movie, the director gets to pick what it looks like and what it sounds like and what the characters wear or what they say. And so as a director, as a movie maker, you get to make every decision and think about every single part of what you want your movie to look like, which is really exciting.
I've never really thought about movies in that way, that they're just trying to tell a story like a book does.
Exactly. You don't really think about it until it's your turn to make a movie.
Okay, so if we're gonna make our own movie, what do we need to start thinking about?
So the first thing you want to think about is a character. So the character is the who in your story. It's the person that's doing all of the things. It's the person that, the story is happening to. So, Jarrod, who would be the main character in Harry Potter?
Well, it's right in the title. Probably Harry Potter is the main character.
Exactly. So there's our main character in that.
Okay.
I haven't seen it. Do you know who the main character in Trolls is? Maybe one of our friends in the
Um,
comments can tell us who the main character in their favorite movie is.
yeah, let's hear. I know there's a couple Trolls World Tour people, so
Yeah.
let's hear who
Yeah.
who the main character is there. But there's a lot more characters too than just the main one too.
Exactly. So your story could be focused around one character, like in Harry Potter, or it could be focused around a bunch of characters, like in Trolls.
Mm-hmm.
But the important thing in a movie is we all go through our day-to-day lives. We wake up, we brush our teeth, we eat our breakfast. Movies don't usually focus around brushing our teeth and eating our breakfast and going to school like a normal day. A story has to have a beginning, a middle, and an end.
Mm.
And in order to get from our beginning to our middle to our end, our characters need to want something. They need to have a conflict, something that drives that story forward.
So if the characters are the who, then their conflict, what they're doing, and the thing that's like driving them, that would be the what, right?
Yes, exactly. So we
And
have our who. Oh,
and what's that called?
that's called our plot. So
Okay.
what is happening to our character is called the plot. So in order to make an interesting story, we want them to, go through this plot. We want there to be a little bit of a struggle there.
It looks
then,
like the Durlick family says Queen Poppy and the Branch could be the favorite or the main character from the Trolls movies.
okay.
So I'm gonna guess that that's right.
Yeah, I think that sounds right to me. That was a pop quiz, including for myself. So right now, if we're telling a story, I could be the who, and I might want to be able to, teach all these awesome Cub Scouts about movie making. And so that could be what our story's about. We could have stories about anything, but it's really important when we're planning that we remember our beginning and our middle and our end. The last W when we're planning a story, just like in a book, is the setting. And so the setting is where our story takes place. So, that's a really important part of how it works, In Harry Potter, our story takes place at Hogwarts. That would be a very different story if it took place somewhere else. And so you want to remember all of the W's when you're starting to plan your story.
When I think of the setting and the where and the when, I always think of Star Wars because they always start their movies with a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. So that's their setting. They tell you right from the first shot of the movie.
Exactly, and they tell you. So as a filmmaker, you want to remember, where your story is taking place. So,
all right, we've thought about our character, our plot, and our setting. How am I going to plan that out? I don't want to keep this all in my head. There's too much to think about. What can I do?
that's a great question. So something that movie makers use to help plan out their story is a storyboard. So a storyboard looks a lot like a comic book. We have a lot of boxes here, and then inside each of these boxes, we plan out what every shot in our movie is going to look like. So right now I'm drawing some boxes out. And what we're going to do in these boxes is we have our who, and we have our where, and we have our story, and we're going to plan out what we want it to look like in every single shot of our movie. This is going to be a pretty basic storyboard, but when you think about a big, long movie like Trolls or Night at the Museum or anything like that, their storyboards have tons and tons of pictures of what they want their story to look like before they even pick up a camera.
I think that'd be really helpful because then you know how you want to set up your camera before you get onto the set, and you've already got where you want the character to stand, and you've got a picture in your head and also on a paper so other people can see what you're seeing too.
Exactly. It's all about taking what's in your head and putting it on the paper so that way you can work with other people to make it happen.
Cool. Well, folks that are following along, in the description of this video, there is a link to a storyboard template that you can use. This looks very similar to what Grace has put out on here for us. You can print that off to plan out your story in your movie. And it's got those squares and it's got a little space between each one so you can describe what's going on. So if there's something important that you want to remember about that scene, you can just write it below those boxes to think about how you want to record it when you're ready to go onto the set.
So the first thing that we want to do when we're starting our storyboard is we want to show our viewer where we are. So
Okay.
like you said, Jarrod, in Star Wars, they start off by telling you a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. But if we're planning a different movie, we might be doing it somewhere else. So if I'm making a story about myself, I might want to tell the viewer that this is taking place in my house. And so you always want to start really big. So you might want to start by showing them, hey, this is where we're at. So the first thing I want to show my viewers is that this story is taking place at my house. So I'll start with a short video clip of my house. This is called an establishing shot because it's establishing where our story is happening. A lot of times, if you're watching a TV show, you might see the outside of the school or the outside of somebody's house or the city that it's taking place in before you jump into the actual story.
That's helpful, yeah.
Yeah. Next, we want to get to know our character. So I'm going to have myself be the character in this movie. And so we might have a clip of me sitting at my desk like I am right now. And so right now, yep, that's some good hair.
That's great.
So now we're meeting our character. So maybe I'm sitting here and I could be doing anything when the story opens. But
maybe you're knitting something.
Exactly, I could be knitting something. So now that we know where we are and we know who our character is, next we need to introduce what our conflict is. And so in this story, I think Jarrod's gonna like this story. My character, me, wants to become a superhero because superheroes are super cool.
All right, I like where this is going. This will be perfect.
So we're gonna have our character. She's sitting at her desk and she's watching some TV and she's seeing some superheroes on that TV screen. And she says, I want to be a superhero like these people on the TV screen.
Yeah, and I know that you said this is introducing the conflict, but I liked how you explained it earlier. It's also what that character wants, and that kind of sets up the plot for the story.
Exactly. Because if all I wanted to do was watch superheroes on TV, that wouldn't be an interesting story. But trying to become a superhero, that has some action in it. That's got some conflict in it. So we've got our character and we know what they want. And now the next part of our story is showing how they're going to get what they want to get. And so in this case, my character knows that if she goes to summer camp out for Webelos Adventure Camp, for Choose Your Own Adventure Camp, they can become a superhero there. But they don't know how they're going to be able to go to camp. So what they decide to do is to sell syrup to be able to go to camp. So the next thing that we're going to show is we're going to show a picture of that syrup.
So she knows what she wants to be a superhero. She knows how to get there or where to do it, which is at summer camp. And then the how to get there is by funding her adventure through syrup.
Yes, exactly. So there's each part of our story. We meet our character, we find out what they want, we find out how they're going to get what they want, and then finally our last picture will be them, finally arriving out at summer camp.
So I like where this is going as far as you said that we have to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. So we know what our beginning is, we know what our end is, and that's on here on our storyboard. And then those last two kind of set up what's going to happen in the middle, right?
Yeah. So maybe we show them going and talking to a friend about selling that syrup to them. So they're talking to a friend, and so we have a picture with two people in it. And so we can use as many boxes as we need to be able to tell our entire story through pictures. So they talk to a friend about syrup. What else can they do to try and, sell that syrup in order to go to summer camp and become a superhero?
Actually, what I've seen some packs doing is doing like a lemonade stand sort of thing for their syrup, so that folks that are out walking their dog can see that there is a way to still be involved in scouting, even though we're social distancing, and having like a pickup location for the syrup.
Yeah, so maybe we show that lemonade stand. So it could be super simple like this, where we've only got a few pictures to sort of help tell our story. Or we could do a big, more elaborate storyboard, but it's all about planning it out and figuring out what we want our story to look like before we even get to the movie set.
So I'd love to hear from our Webelos Scouts at home on what you like about this storyboard and what you think we could add to it in the future. And I actually have a question from the Pettit family asking, what if the story took place in different places? So we said that the setting is the where and the when, but what if there's two different places that the story is happening?
I think that's a great question. You can always sort of help to show that place by doing another big establishing shot. So maybe we go from a house to a park, or maybe, your characters sort of talk about where they are when they get there. Stories are all about sort of showing it visually. So you can do a lot of different things to sort of show where you are within your setting. So your setting can totally change.
So maybe you get another storyboard paper and you map out your establishing shot, then get closer into the subject, that sort of thing again for the second location.
Absolutely.
Cool. So you can, like you said before, you can use the storyboard to kind of show the broad view of your movie, the beginning, the middle, and end. But then for every location or person that you're seeing in it, you could have a whole nother one so you're really prepared for every scene that you want to shoot.
Exactly. And the one that we showed was super, super simple, but you really want to, get a lot of detail in there. So that way we can be prepared just like scouts for when we actually go and shoot our movie.
I also liked that I could kind of visualize, even though I'm not there with you and we haven't talked about what this story would be before, I can visualize the story that you want to tell, even with those very simple drawings. That was really helpful.
Exactly. So now that we've planned out our whole movie, it's time to actually get to start shooting our movie. Isn't that exciting?
This is the best part.
This is the fun part. This is super exciting.
Okay.
So that means all we need is a camera and some actors, right, Jarrod?
I mean, I think those things would be really helpful.
Yeah, I think so too. So you've seen a movie before. I've seen a movie before. We've all seen the credits at the end of the movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's lots of people, as you can see from those credits, that go and help make that movie happen.
Yeah, and it's more than just the person that's behind the camera and in front of the camera, and the director that we've already talked about. So maybe our friends at home can tell us about the different roles that they know that happen in a movie as well.
I think that's a great idea. Just like in scouting, movies are just like scouting. In scouts, we learn how to work together as a team and how to work with the people in our dens. And movies are just like that. We bring a lot of people together that work together as a team to be able to make that movie happen.
That's really cool. It's like your patrol or your den.
Exactly. And so if you're shooting this movie with your patrol or your den, maybe every single person in your den could take a different, movie role to help make it happen.
I think that's a great idea. Or if you're doing it at home with your family, maybe you as the Cub Scout are the director, and you can ask your parents or your siblings to be the actors.
Exactly. So we've got actors. Those are the people that you see on screen. And you've got the director. So let's think about some of the other people that we have on our movie set. Somebody that's really important is the camera person. They're the person that operates the camera. We also, and on big movie sets, sometimes the sound is recorded separately from the video. So you've got a whole nother person that's in charge of recording the sound, so that way it sounds really good. Have any of our friends at home sort of thought about different movie roles?
Not yet. We're still looking for some comments from our Webelos Scouts for the different roles besides our actors and our camera people and the director to put a movie together. So we've talked about sounds. The other thing that I've heard that's really important is lighting, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You hear lights, camera, action.
Mm-hmm.
And so on movie sets, lighting is super important, and the people that are in charge of lighting actually have a special name. That name is called a gaffer, which can kind of be a silly name, a gaffer. That's the person that's in charge of the lighting.
Well, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, so there's some fun movie terms for you. So you've got a gaffer that's in charge of lighting, and they work with somebody called a grip who's in charge of building things. So they build the set, and they make sure everybody has enough power to be able to power their cameras and their sound equipment. So that's a really important role on our movie set.
You know, even for these live videos that we've been doing for our Scouting at Home series, I had to think about the lighting for this room too, because if I turn off everything, you can't really see me very well. And I had to close this blind behind me, because if I had that open, you still can't see me very well. I've got this light, I don't know if I can show it, above my computer that shines in my face, which is a little annoying, but it makes it so that I look a little bit better on the camera.
And that's super important, you know, even for these types of Scouting at Home things. It takes a lot of different people sometimes to make this happen. And we've got people behind the scenes that help us.
Speaking of the people behind the scenes, we've got a bunch of great answers from our scouts on more people involved in movie making, from casting and costume and set design. You've got your stage crew who, for like a play, would be opening and closing the curtains or getting the things set up on the scene. We've got the costume makers, the editing people, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. Once we have the movie filmed, how do you put it together into one cohesive story? And then finally, our artists, and again, the costume designers. So awesome. I like to think of my scout uniform as my costume for these live at home events.
Exactly, but you know, somebody even had to design these scout uniforms, you know, so it takes a whole bunch of people to be able to make that film happen. So costume designers are really important. And then I think somebody said set decorators, you know.
Yes.
Every time that we come in here to do a Scouting at Home, I become my own set decorator and I have to clean my room. But, you know, if you wanted to make, you know, this look like the outdoors or make it look like we were in a faraway galaxy, it could take some pretty elaborate set decorating to, you know, make those things happen. Not to ruin the magic for anyone, but Star Wars didn't happen on a spaceship. It happened somewhere else, and they had to, you know, decorate it to make it look like that. And so that's a super important role. I know. I'm sorry.
Well, that's amazing. They made me believe it.
Exactly. So those are some really important roles, and those are what help tell our stories. That's super important.
You know, another thing that we talked about as far as the actors, but what if our story isn't about somebody who's human? How could I do a story about something that's not a human and takes a real person?
That's a good question. So like a story like Trolls, or what?
Yeah, like an animation.
Yeah. So just like in real life movies, on animations, you need somebody to direct it, so to lead the team. You need somebody to decide what the characters are going to look like, because it might not be a human, so somebody's got to draw out what they think the character's going to look like. Mm-hmm. You might think this is crazy, but even in animations, they have people that are in charge of lighting within the animations. And so, you know, animation, they use the same exact things, they just do it all on a computer instead of with a camera.
I think you've got a little animated guy there to show us too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to turn on my second screen here. I'm going to flip it around. All right, so here we have these pink on a pink background. Not my best choice. We have our little animated friend here. This is my robot friend whose name is McFurd. And he is going to be our actor in our film today.
Very cool. Oh, and going back to our Star Wars conversation a minute ago, some of our scouts would like to talk about green screens and how those can help set the location if it's not a real place.
Yeah, so green screens work by taking all of the green out of that picture and changing it to a different background. So sometimes on Zoom calls, you see people do this and it'll make it look like they're in outer space or out at camp. And so that's a great way to sort of change your location and change where something is happening without actually have place. Going back to our Star Wars example, they shot a lot of that on a green screen to make it look like they were out in space or out on the Millennium Falcon or wherever it was they were. So green screens are a super big thing that we use all the time when we're making movies.
That's cool. Yeah, I've seen some Zoom calls being able to do that too.
Yeah. So, you know, if this was our actor, we're going to animate this guy. What we can do is another type of animation or shooting called stop motion animation. And so what stop motion animation is, and I've seen a lot of different scouts do this with Cub Scout or with Lego pieces, is you can take your actor, your figurine guy, and you can set him up one way and take a picture, and then move him slightly and take another picture, and take another picture and keep moving him slightly to make it look like he's moving. Whenever we're making movies, what the camera is doing is taking a lot of different pictures very fast to be able to, put them together to make it look like we're moving. It's just a lot of individual photos. And so what stop motion is doing is it's taking a picture and moving a little bit, and then taking a lot of pictures and putting them together to be able to make one coherent movie.
That's really cool. And I know that we'll talk about great camera equipment here in a little bit, but I think what's really cool about that stop motion sort of type of movie making is you can see your progress really easily just by flipping through, say, on your phone really fast, and you can kind of see that little, what was his name, McFurd? McFurd go through the animations that you take one at a time.
Exactly. Or in old style animated movies, they actually drew the character in each and every picture to be able to make it look like they were moving. And so that's kind of how stop motion started as well.
So you could do that on a piece of paper and just flip through it like a flip book.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what flip books are doing.
And we've got a link to that in the video description on how to do a flip book animation as well. And the Kenyon family was mentioning the old time Mickey Mouse series. That would be a great example of stop motion through drawing animation.
It absolutely would be, yeah. That's exactly how they started doing those Mickey Mouse movies. Disney was actually the very first company to ever make a full-length movie out of animations, and that was Snow White. And so that's like a super, super cool example.
Awesome. Well, maybe let's talk a little bit about the equipment.
We talked a little bit about how movies all come together and the people that it takes to be able to, make a movie. So if our scouts at home are, ready to make their movies, they've planned it out, they've got their storyboards. Mm-hmm. Do you know what the very best camera for movie making is?
I don't know, but I'm sure it's a huge one that sits on your shoulder so you look like a real movie maker.
That's a really good example of an awesome movie camera, but the best movie camera that we all have at home is actually just a cell phone.
Whatever you got with you.
Yeah, exactly. The best camera is the camera that you have with you. And so it's really awesome because even if our scouts don't have their cell phones, I bet many of their parents do. And so they can use that as a way to go ahead and shoot your movie right on your cell phone.
That's pretty cool. We live in a really awesome time in our world that everybody has the basic technology to be a movie maker and can show stories from all over the world.
Exactly. So when we're shooting our movies at home, maybe you have one of your family members be your actor. You as the director could also be the cameraman and hold that phone and shoot it. And then, because we have our storyboards, that's our plan. We already know exactly what we want to shoot and how we want to shoot it with our phones.
Well, that's pretty cool. And you can use other things from around your house to be part of your set design as well, whether you're using sheets for your background or you paint a picture and you put it pretty close to the camera so it looks like it's part of the scene. You can use your lamps and lights from your house to be part of your light design. Maybe you have a microphone that you use for karaoke night that you could use to get better sound. There's all kinds of things that we could just use from around our house to make a cool set and tell our story.
Exactly. Just because we're stuck at home, it doesn't mean that, we can't go and make awesome movies.
Now, Grace, we have a question from the Pettits. If you have lots of different cameras, which one is the best? Do you have a favorite brand of camera or one that you use besides your phone?
My personal favorite camera is a DJI camera. And so it's a really cool camera because it holds itself steady. Sometimes when we're holding a camera, our hands can get shaky or we can move our arms and then it looks a little bit shaky. So I've got a camera that holds itself steady, which is really awesome. And it's nice and small for camping and traveling. But any camera that you have with you and you know how to use, is an awesome camera to be able to make a movie with.
Great. But if you're just getting started out, I'd use what you already have. You don't need to go buy something new. Use what's on your smartphone, or you can use any other digital camera. And we'll talk about getting those media files into your editing software in just a little bit.
Exactly. So, shooting your movie is a lot of fun. You work with your family and you work as a team to be able to make that happen. But now, once we've shot our movie, we have all of this footage. We've shot this whole long movie.
Mm-hmm.
We've got to figure out what we're going to do with all of this.
Okay.
So, part 3 of making a movie is number 1, we've planned it. Number 2, we've shot it. And now it's time for number 3, editing it.
Okay, let's talk about it. Editing is actually my favorite part of the whole movie making process, because I think it's another layer of your storytelling. Maybe you had this great plan at the beginning and you had to do a bunch of takes because maybe you messed up from time to time. But you can take all of those shots and pictures and little video clips and put them together into a story that makes sense.
Exactly. It's okay to make mistakes when we're making our movie. Sometimes you forget your line, like Jarrod said. Even the best actors in the world do this. And so editing, we get to pick what the very best part of our shooting is to be able to put it into our movie. So the reason that I think a cell phone is a really great thing to be able to shoot your movie with is because it also has all of your editing software right there on your phone. And so on iPhones come with iMovie, which is an app that you can use to edit and to put your movie together.
Mm-hmm.
But on Android phones, you can find some other free ones. Or if you're shooting on a camera, you can also take all of those clips, everything that you use to make your movie, and you can put it on your computer and you can edit it that way too.
Yeah, and there's so many great different pieces of software out there to glue your movies together. You mentioned that earlier to me. The editing is like gluing all the different pieces of your movie together, and that's a great way to think about it.
Yeah.
There's free software out there. You can use something as simple as like a PowerPoint and just putting your different clips on different slides and then advancing between them so that you can see the movie that way. Or you don't even need to have editing software to glue it together. If you just keep the clips that you want and that look really good to you and put them one after another in your camera roll. And just like we said before with the stop motion, just flipping from picture to picture, you just flip from video to video on your camera roll as well.
Exactly. So some other things that we can use when we're editing to sort of help tell our story is music. Music
Definitely.
helps completely. So, Jarrod, have you ever seen the movie Jaws?
Da-dun, 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 da-dun.
Exactly. So in Jaws, we know it's going to be scary. We know that there's a shark coming because the music told us so. So music can help us feel scared. It can help us feel excited. It can make us laugh. Music is sort of like that little extra thing in the background of our movies that sort of helps tell our story and helps tell us what's going on and where we're going. Star Wars, I keep using Star Wars as an example, but Star Wars has some great great music. You hear that Star Wars music and you already know what's going to happen. You already know that you're, about to start that movie. And so when we're editing, we can pick and choose what we want to see on the screen, but we can also pick what we want to hear on the screen.
And what I think is really cool is that there are so many free resources out there for different kinds of sounds. So if you're in your house and maybe it's the middle of winter, but you're trying to tell a story that's in the middle of the summer, you can find sounds like birds chirping and put those in your movie as well. So you can really create the scene and the story that you want to, even if those things don't exist in real life when you're shooting it.
Exactly. Sometimes you can't, sometimes if you want to put a monster or something in your movie, you might not be able to show a monster or a lion or something like that. But a big scary roar as a sound effect, boom, now we think that there's a monster in your closet, even though you might not ever have to show that monster. So sound is a really cool thing that you don't want to forget when you're putting your movies together.
I like it.
So once we have our movies put together, there's one final step in our movie making process. And I think this is my favorite step. That is getting to show your movie to your family and friends.
Yeah, you put a lot of hard work and effort into it. You want to be able to share it with people so they can enjoy it too.
Exactly. So like right now, we're doing this scouting at home thing. We're getting to, make our movie and share it with, everybody back at home right as we're doing it. But once you guys have put your movies together, you can always, have your parents share them on social media or share them on Facebook, so that way you could show them to people even though we're all stuck at home right now.
I remember a couple weeks ago we did our virtual campfire and had lots of people tell stories through their favorite skits and songs, and then they shared them with us so we could put them together into our campfire program, and that was pretty cool.
It was. And if you guys at home go ahead and make a movie for part of your Arrow of Light movie making, you guys can actually share those with us on Facebook so they can be included in our virtual campfire this week.
Yeah, we have the camp all going on starting this Saturday. There'll be another campfire, and we'd love to share some stories that you guys come up with. In fact, we challenge you to make your story about some part of the Scout Oath or the Scout Law. So if you're trying to come up with an idea for a cool movie to make, and it could be just a couple minutes long, maybe you could show yourself as a Scout or a sibling as a Scout doing something that relates to the Scout Oath or Scout Law. Can you guys think of an action that relates to the Scout is helpful part of the Scout Law? Maybe share that in the comments.
Exactly. So while they're thinking of ways that they can show how a Scout is helpful, Jarrod, I heard that you actually made a little bit of a movie a few weeks ago.
I did. We were doing a fun activity here at my house on putting together a Ruby Goldberg machine so that we could tip some water into my mouth for Water Bottle Wednesday. And even though we only showed originally the first try, it didn't go super well. So we kept trying, and I put together a movie on that process from kind of the beginning to the end. So I'd love to share with you guys the video of the movie that we made to tell a story about persevering through mistakes. Here we go. Hey, Jarrod here. After our first attempt at the Ruby Goldberg machine for Water Bottle Wednesday, it didn't go quite as well as we'd hoped, but we kept trying. So here's a compilation of things we changed and our different tries. Never give up, guys. Never give up. All right, let's try this again. Oh no! All right, try number 4. Try number 5. Where did the avocado go? Try number 6. Try number 7. We're on try number 8 now. Try number 9. You know what they always say, 10th time the charm. Oh, try number 11. For the 12th time, last try. Lucky try number 13. We made some adjustments. This is try number 14. Try number 15. Try number 16. Here we are with try number 17. We're on try number 18. What was the last one? Try number 19. 20 tries. Number 20. Try number 21. Try number 22. Yes! After 22 tries, I finally got a face full of water.
So that was a pretty awesome movie, Jarrod. So I can see you went through every part of the movie making process. You had an idea for what you wanted your movie to be. You went through and you shot it, and then you put it all together and you told your story and you shared it with everybody.
Yeah, and we talked about setting earlier. This was set in just one place in the kitchen of my house, but we had a couple characters, myself and my dog Finn. And my wife, who was behind the camera. There was lots of people. There more than one person that put the movie together. And then probably the thing that took the longest was actually editing that movie. So I had lots of different takes from my set, and I had to clip out the parts that I just wanted to show, which was basically the beginning of each try, and then at the end, the final result.
And you had a beginning, a middle, and an end. And our character clearly wanted something, which was, of course, the face full of water.
Well, I wouldn't say I wanted the face full of water, but I was pretty glad to have it by the end.
Exactly. We had a little bit of a conflict throughout that story there.
Yeah, me versus the machine.
So, have our friends at home thought of ways that they can show how a scout is helpful as an example for one of their movies?
I didn't see that there. It turns out the video showing was a little bit laggy, so we're gonna post a video or post a link to that video so you can watch it afterwards if you want to see the actual story that I told. But for your Moviemaking merit badge, to do requirement 2 and 3, you need to put together a movie about you doing something, and they recommend doing something from the Scout Law, which is a great place to start. But you can make your movie about anything that you want to, as long as it has all those elements that we talked about today.
Yeah, and if you guys want to see some examples of some other movies, you can go check out our virtual campfire from a couple weeks ago, and you can see some of the stories and some of the movies that the kids from Moviemaking Merit Badge made to be able to, earn their merit badge in that way.
For sure. And just a couple last things before we finish up our movie or our den meeting here today. In the description of the video, we put some more links to additional resources, including something called Cub Scout Eric, who posts a lot of videos that he makes on different adventures. And we found a great video from him about editing your movie, so you can watch that a little bit more visually that we're not able to show here today live. And a couple other resources there in the video description. Before we end today, though, I know, Grace, you've been working on a pretty cool project, and I was wondering if you'd want to tell us about where your latest documentary series is coming along.
Absolutely. So, as part of one of my classes in school this year, I got tasked with making a documentary. And so it could be pretty daunting to try and make an entire documentary from your home because we've been social distancing. So I decided to make a documentary about what we've been doing with scouting at home the last few weeks. And so I used a lot of the different elements that we've talked about today. I had to pick my characters. And so my characters were some of the awesome people that have been working so hard to make scouting at home happen the last few weeks. And I interviewed them actually using Zoom, so talking to them like we're talking to right now and recording that.
Mm-hmm.
I used a lot of editing to be able to make it happen, and I used some of the clips from some of our scouting at home things that we've been doing the last few weeks, and I was able to sort of edit it together to make a story and to tell the story of what scouting's been doing during, this coronavirus time.
That's kind of cool that you're able to use parts from, or use video clips that you didn't even shoot to tell the story that you wanted to tell.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, everything that was in it was actually stuff that was either shot a long time ago at camp or stuff that's been shot, using Zoom. And so sometimes you don't even have to pick up a camera to be able to sort of put everything together to be able to make a movie.
Well, that is awesome. Thanks for sharing, and I look forward to seeing the final product sometime.
Absolutely.
Well, I want to say thank you to everybody who participated alongside us today. I would definitely encourage everybody to check out those additional resources from Cub Scout Eric and from the other things that we posted in the video description to help you with your movie making. And I can't wait to see all of the great movies that you guys come up with for our camp all this weekend. And if you want to share them with your family or your den, you could do it here on Facebook to do a watch party. And if you post it here in the comments from this video, we'd love to see those things as well.
Absolutely.
I also want to say thank you to you, Grace, for sharing your expertise on our movie making today and for being available for this council-wide den meeting.
Absolutely. It's been so much fun.
Great. Well, thanks again. We'll see you this weekend at the Camperall. If you haven't signed up for it yet, you definitely still can. Go to our website, lecbsa.org/camperall. You can sign up there. You can get a patch if you like, but it's a free event and it'll be going on all day Saturday through Sunday morning with great camping activities that you can do at home. with not just us here in Lake Erie Council, but with scouts from around the entire United States and from around the world. So that'll be a really cool experience this weekend, so we can do some camping together while still apart. I think that's it, Grace. Anything else?
No, I can't wait to see what everybody makes.
Great. Well, stay home, everybody. Hope you're all staying safe and healthy, and we'll catch you next time for our next week's STEM meeting. See you, everybody.